Hey all, welcome back to Educate Me. This is where I get to ask all the questions that all of you have been thinking for quite a while. Then we get to learn about who this person is we're interviewing. So it is with my great pleasure today to have Miss Allana Pratt on the podcast today. I think her insights on human intimacy are pretty close to perfect, but we all know perfection is unachievable. It's progress, not perfection. Allana has been a media personality for many years. If you've watched her YouTube channel, y'all know she is as honest as they come. Allana is an accomplished author of 6 books, and she owns the prestige title of being an Ivy League grad, where y'all know that me being the host, I own the title of drinking the most beers and flunking out of college. This is my first time meeting this amazing woman, and I'm looking so forward to our conversation today. So I think we should just get into this, and please welcome Miss Allana Pratt. Allana, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. And I'm so glad that you say Allana, banana, because normally people say Allana. It's very eloquent or very British or something. So I like that you're like Allana, banana. Thank you.
Right. I assumed that was your name.
Yeah, well, it is my name, but a lot of people mispronounce it. I don't know why, but you did it properly. So I really appreciate you right out of the gate. I love a beer too. I love beer. I'm Canadian, so hey.
Us less educated people, we don't pronounce things correctly, so we do it right.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, Allana, how has it been being a media personality? You've been in it for what, 7, 8 years?
20, but
20
yeah.
years. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, even probably more if you count all the media I did, but it wasn't me as myself. But when I was in Tokyo from age 20 to 24, I was a model and a dancer and a spokesperson, and I hosted videos, and I was on karaoke videos, and that was my first sort of getting on camera. And I'm like, ooh, I like this. And then when I went to Columbia University in New York City, and I started to really, I was actually an art history major because I wanted to learn the thread of beauty. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And then all these different cultures and all these different countries and all these different timelines, like what was the thread of beauty? And it's sort of like the same thread of intimacy, like that authentic expression, being received, transparency, vulnerability. Like I loved that. But it's also where I was interning at CNN for Showbiz Tonight. I was interning at Entertainment Tonight. I was interning at, where was the other place? Macy's Herald Square. And that's where they put on all the big events, like in New York City, when you do a parade, they do a parade. When you do fireworks, they do fireworks, right? So I was interning at all these places, and I was like, oh, I'm really interested in perhaps in like broadcast journalism. And I was all ready to do the master's program there at Columbia, but I got married. I got married to a man that I met in Tokyo. He was like a Wall Street broker, really rich, tall, dark, and handsome. And honestly, Doug, when I met him, the first thought, which is kind of embarrassing now, but it was many, many years ago, like 25, 30 years ago, I'm never going to meet somebody this amazing that would love me. Yeah, that was honestly what I thought. So I better not screw this one up. And it was all about pleasing him. And it was flushing up we'll call it a daddy wound or a mummy wound or a parental wound. I didn't see that at the time, but I just remember he took me on my first date. He took me to the Philippines. So we're living in Tokyo. And he goes, are you working this weekend? I'm like, I work every weekend. Like I'm a working dancer. I said, oh, but my contract's ending. So right here, I could go on a vacation. So he took me on my very first date to the Philippines, to the Shangri-La Hotel.
Nice.
And yeah, it was quite impressive. And I remember listening to him on the phone. Like when I left Canada and I moved to LA, when I got on that plane to go to Tokyo, I had $40 left, but I was not going to use my dad's credit card, which would admit failure. So I was going to make this happen. So I had gained, I think at that point I'd been in Tokyo for maybe 2 or 3 years. So I'd saved $55,000, and I was so friggin' proud of myself.
Wow.
And he on the phone was talking about 1.3 as his bonus. And I'm like, that's millions. They don't talk thousands with 1.3. And I again, I made this crazy belief. Well, he must be better than me. He must be superior than me. He must know more than me. Like, I don't know where I'm making this, shit up, but that's what I thought in that moment. And all of my pride and all of my confidence and all that I'd gone through, I just threw it out the window to get his approval. Again, daddy wound being flushed up again. So
Sure.
while that marriage didn't work, we were together 6 years in total, engaged and then married. But it was a wonderful growth opportunity to realize that I was still seeking the presence of my dad, the approval of my dad, the approval of my mom. Like, just growing up, there were so many wounds that I hadn't faced. I'd always been 3 steps ahead, trying to be good enough and trying to be a people pleaser and trying to get you to like me and trying to control my circumstances. I didn't even know I had an inside. I didn't even know I had a little you inside. I did not have an intimate relationship with myself. And so that marriage ended, and the inner work began that really led me into being an intimacy expert today.
Yeah, that's the key. It's so funny how we get where we're going and how we understand ourselves, because I buried myself in alcohol because alcohol made me a stronger person. So I thought.
Mm.
And made me realize, when I finally got sober at 25, the light kind of popped on, and I started to understand that the world isn't about me. The world is about everybody else around me. And who I surround myself with is my choice, not their choice. And that's the best part about intimacy. It doesn't have anything to do with bodily human sex or anything else. Was
Well, it can.
what everybody thinks it's all about.
Yeah.
Intimacy is about a relationship with two people at that given time, no matter what's going on.
Yeah. Thank you. For me, intimacy includes sex, but it isn't sex. So intimacy is a way of being where we can put our walls down, open our heart up, be brave. Vulnerability is brave.
Mm-hmm.
And be real and be honest, and not have our communications or our actions be sourced by getting approved of. They're sourced from being authentic. They're sourced from our truth of our heart's wisdom. And so that's not possible with another person if we can't do that with ourselves first.
Right.
So when we have an emotion like sad, mad, ashamed, terrified, any of these emotions, as a little kid, for me, if you showed any of those emotions, it was going to get worse, not better. So I learned how to shove that down and be fakey fake, totally disassociate, leave my body. And so as I came, and I'm still learning, I'm 52 and I'm still a piece of work from time to time. I'm a hot mess from time to time, very masterful at what I do as well, but I'm always a student. And what I'm learning is there's so much of me that would leave when things got uncomfortable, rather than sit in the fire, which I'm learning to do now. And I teach my clients how to do. Oh, as I said, open your heart and connect with the little you inside that's scared, and don't fix them. Don't have an agenda. Don't have a strategy. Don't come in there and just certainly don't go in there and say, shut up, or criticize them or judge them. Judge this part of ourselves. That's not going to work. That's going to make it worse. And also don't avoid them. As you said, with alcohol, we can avoid with social media. We can avoid with drugs or what have you. We can avoid with shopping. We can avoid with spiritual bypassing. No. It's all for the good. And like, we can do any of this. But what we really need is to face and feel this little you in all the different emotions and just be. No fixing. No, oh, it's going to be fine. Just shut the fuck up and just be. And if anything, say, oh, you have every right to feel this way. Tell me more. That's acknowledgement and validation and connection and empathy and compassion. And that part of us, when, what? You're not going to judge me? You're not going to shove me in a closet and throw away the key? You actually care? This is how we come to unconditionally love ourselves. How the hell are we ever going to attract somebody that loves us unconditionally if we don't love ourselves unconditionally? Because we are light, we are energy, we are science. We attract our like vibration. And if you avoid yourself, you're going to attract somebody that when you've had a bad day, they don't give a shit because you haven't given a shit.
Exactly.
So when we have this deep and this compassion, this, wow, you have every right to feel this way. And then here's the last piece, which took me decades to learn. And I'll tell you whole story later if you want, but I was sitting in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. I'd gone through a 12-year custody battle, and I'd lost my savings and my house, and I was in $250,000 of legal debt, but at least my son loved me until he came over to my house one day and got all of his things and said, I'm living with dad. Don't call me. I think he was about 15. And there were no more tears left, Doug. I just crumpled onto the floor, and I had lost everything, and now I'd lost everyone. But that was one of the biggest moments when I realized the real one I'd lost was me. Me. Trying to put everyone else first, please everybody else, give to everybody else until I was empty. So that's when I went out to this cabin, and I told my staff, I'm like, okay, so I'm not doing well. I'm going to have a nervous breakdown Fridays to Sunday. And then I'm going to work Mondays through Thursdays. So just find me a place in the middle of nowhere. I got to heal my heart. And that's when I discovered this key that I was alluding to before. When you go in and you be with little you inside of your being, and you say, wow, you have every right to feel this way. Tell me more. The last piece is that I discovered at that cabin is I'm willing to sit with you, little you, for eternity, even if you never change. That's how much I love you. Because that's unconditional love. Conditional love is, I will love you so long as you change and you'll be happy and confident. Right. And that's conditional love. Those are when you love yourself conditionally, you will attract people who love you conditionally, and you're going to blame them. But that's just a projection of your own internal world. So when I finally said, oh my God, and I wrote a list out on that deck of that cabin, maybe everyone's going to opt out of Facebook because they realize I'm not perfect. Maybe my son is going to never call me again, ever. Maybe I'm going to die alone. Like, I wrote the whole list, Doug. It was not a fun list, but it was the truth. And then on either end of that sentence, I put, even though I may die alone, I love and accept myself. So I put that at the beginning and the end of every single sentence of these worst case scenarios, because I'm not going to be airy fairy spiritual bypass and not say this is possible. I'm going to acknowledge the fear. I'm going to acknowledge the shame. I'm going to acknowledge whatever. And then I'm going to affirm, and I still love and accept myself. And something happened, like it all balanced out inside of my being. Like I didn't have to resist. I didn't have to clamor. I could just be here, and I could be with me. And it was I've had several direct experiences in my life. I'm very blessed to have had those meditations, plant journeys, etc. But that one was just no plants, no medicine, just sitting there with myself. And this, like a Shazam, where the floor dropped out. There was no gravity. I was one with God, the divine, the universe, and I was one with myself, and everything was okay. And I didn't have to do anything different to be enough. And that's when I changed from calling myself, I was actually the sexy mom expert. Can you imagine? All the way back like 20 years ago when I was like coaching Lisa Gibbons in Dancing with the Stars. Back then I was like the sexy mom expert. But that's when I claimed to be the intimacy expert. Because before people were like, are you a tantrika? Are you going to teach me how to give a blowjob or whatever? And I'm like, no. I mean, we can talk sex if you want. And I love sex. Sex is amazing when it's sacred. And when your heart is open, it's amazing. I said, but intimacy this is my definition of intimacy: transparency, vulnerability, honesty, oneness with self, the divine, our bodies, so we can be that with another.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best part about the truth is you never have to remember what you say.
Yeah, thank you. It's so much easier. Yeah.
I mean, it's so much easier and so much more fun. And people don't realize that the truth is so funny. And it allows you to not only laugh at yourself, but laugh around others. And it just makes your life so much easier. When you can look into that mirror and say, Doug, I'm glad you woke up today. I appreciate you. And let's get through today without hurting somebody physically, but don't lie and don't stretch anything. That's how I start every day. Because when I was drinking, I couldn't say those words, number one. And number two, everything that came out of my mouth was a lie. Wow. Because I needed to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I didn't like who I was. Now I'm 53, fat, and having fun. And I know exactly who I am, and I love it.
Oh my God, I don't think you're fat, but I'm glad you're having fun. I'm curious, Doug. I know this is an interview about me, but how did you forgive yourself? Did you go to AA? What was your path of healing?
Yeah, I checked into AA October 27th, 1995. That was the October 26th was the last day I drank, and basically woke up on my parents' basement, didn't live at the house, drunk, pissed myself, did everything I shouldn't have done. And told my dad, I think I need some help. And he says, okay, let's get you some help. And then I walked into an AA meeting. I'd been through treatment 2 other times already before this.
Got it.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Treatment is only good for those who are ready.
Thank you.
And if you are not willing to make the change, you never will make the change. It's sad to say, and it's hard to say, but sobriety and people with the willingness to change only happens to 2% of us. And I've
Wow.
been sober for 26 years, and it's been, the first 10 years weren't great, but the last 16 years have been awesome. I met my best friend when I first walked in the doors of AA, and he's one of my best friends today. I love him to death. Do anything, I'll drop anything. We've seen each other grow from making $365 a week to what we have now. And we both have, I have my son that's 16, both his kids, all three of them, I've seen them grow up. I saw him get married to his wife. He saw me got married to both of mine and divorced and go through all the organizations that we go through. But that's that's kind of who I am. And AA structure basically gave me the plan and the process of how to succeed in life by doing the things that I want done to me to others.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now
Yeah.
there's some weird kinks in there and other stuff that I like to go out there and do, but I'm able to talk about that because when it comes to sex, attitude, and dating relationships, I'm in a different league than the traditional. I like to go out and have fun and do whatever it is I like to do. And there's a lot of people out there that are one person monogamy relationships. I'm not that person.
Got it. How
So,
wonderful that you can be. And this is a great point to make about intimacy and the people that I attract into my coaching community. It's about authenticity, not about doing it traditionally or the way you're going to get approved of. It's about, are you willing to face rejection, face disappointment, face society, whatever, and be you. And be you. Whether you could come from a family that was very polyamorous, but choose monogamy. You could come from monogamy and choose multiple relationships, whatever. You could be all LGBTQ plus, like all the different ways there are being are beautiful, so long as you're aligned with your heart's truth.
yeah.
And then express that, and you have the communication skills to be brave and express that, so you don't cause expectations or misunderstandings or conclusions. You're just very direct and heart open. You can live a very free, sovereign, beautiful life. So I'm really glad that the training you went through supported you in being who you are.
Yeah, no, I absolutely wholeheartedly love it. Owe my life to probably 10 different people within the program, because they're the ones that taught me that the lie isn't getting you anywhere, because we can all see through your bullshit, but we don't care. We like you for who you are.
Yeah.
And you're a good person. Why can't you just repeat that and live the truth that you want to live? And
Nice.
that took me about 10 years to get.
Oh, hey, I'm still on the path, as I said at the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah, that's what I said also. It's not perfection, it's progress.
Yeah, it's the journey. The journey is the destination.
Yeah.
Not the yeah.
So basically, the Intimate Conversations podcast, how did that come about?
Over the years, because I've been doing this for about 20 years, I've interviewed over 850 people.
Wow.
I've interviewed Whoopi Goldberg. I've interviewed Alanis Morissette. I've interviewed
amazing.
And so I guess poignant is a beautiful word, because it was right when who she was studying with, Debbie Ford, who I'd had the pleasure of interviewing as well, passed away.
Wow.
And so there were tears. I've the more I can be with my own tears, the more people feel safe to cry with me. The more I can reveal truth within myself, even scary truth that might mean I need to change things or have hard conversations. The more I can do that in myself, the more people tell me things they've never told anyone. Sometimes things they haven't even revealed to themselves within the conversation. So it's really magnificent to be able to be so raw with people in intimate conversations. I love it. Some of my girlfriends are older. One of them is Linda Gray, who is Sue Ellen in Dallas. She's a UN ambassador now. And the other one's Erin Gray. They both have Grays, but they're not related. Erin Gray, and she was Kate and who was it? Something in Silver Spoons or something. I don't remember. But anyway, she was quite an actress several decades ago. And I interviewed them both, and they both said, you don't think ahead to the next question. You're right with me. You ask a question based on what I just said. Most interviewers are like, they've got the script, or they're not even listening, or they don't even really care. Like, you're so there on every word. It's just this rapturous other dimension that happens. And I was like, really? Thanks. Okay. And then I remember interviewing Sark. She's an amazing woman. She's have 14 books. One of them is called Succulent Wild Women. I love it. So I loved her. And then I was at the Henry Miller Library in Big Sur, and they had a chair that was like shaped like a hand. And we sat in it, Sark and I, and it was so big that our legs were straight out.
Nice.
And so we're like two little girls sitting in this big chair. And I interviewed her as well. And she said, and she's been interviewed tons of times, that was a top 5 interview. And I said, why? And she said, you were so present and cared about what I said. And I go, duh. And she's like, no, you don't get it. They have a list of questions, they knock them off, and they interview the next person. She goes, you're so engaged. And as I'm looking, it's a direct reflection of how engaged and listening can I be with myself. I swear, if I'd interview those 3 ladies, 10 years prior, I would have done the same thing. I would have been 3 steps ahead, not really listening, trying to look good, trying to get the result, trying to accomplish, trying to be in control, all those things. But because I've done this inner work, I was able to have those conversations. Now, people, if we take that into sex, it's a totally different world. Because if you have an outcome, or you've got to perform, or you're not even present, and you're just going for the genital pleasure copulation, and you're not involving your heart, you're not involving your mind, you're not penetrating them with all of your chakras, you're not completely there. It's just the meeting of body parts, really. Or you're fantasizing about somebody else, but you're with somebody different. Like, ouch, right? If they ever found out. But you could be that present, and then you could bring fantasy into it, but be authentic and present about it. You can fuck somebody open to the edge of the universe, because they're that safe in your presence to let go that deep. Like, it goes from sex to lovemaking when you have this intimate relationship with yourself, where in the face of uncertainty, you have your own back. In the face of being completely out of control, because we are out of control, people. We can't control another person. We can influence, but we can't control them. We can't control life. We have no idea actually what's going to happen in the next minute, Doug. None. Right? None. So we're out of control, and we're like everything's uncertain. And all we can do is show up and be our best self. But as soon as we go off concluding, or off trying to control, or off leaving the moment to try to make something happen, or the opposite, we go, oh, I hope that doesn't happen again, or we go off into the past and we shut down, and oh, well, maybe that'll happen, don't want to get hurt again, all that. If we do any of that, we've lost the moment, we've lost intimacy, we've lost connection. And communication is relationship.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
No communication, no relationship.
I was gonna say that to you. Communication is the key to it all, and interpretation of that communication has to be relayed, because if you don't understand what was said, or if you took what they said in a different delight, you have to basically turn around and go, okay, what you just said is sex is always on the table, and I appreciate that for you. And if they go, no, that's not what I said, you go, oh, well, that's what I heard.
Right. Yes.
So if the understanding's not there and you don't have the ability to speak up and tell them this is what I heard,
Right.
the communication is gone.
And then you go along with assumptions for a little while, and then a big, huge conflict happens because each of you understood the very same line to mean two different things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the conflict. I love, love, love what you're saying. So back when the pandemic hit, I'd been coaching for, I guess, about 20 years. And my clients would always complain that I can't find anybody on dating apps. And I kept telling them, well, dating apps are designed to keep you single. Think about it. They make money when you fail at love. They don't make money when you succeed at love, Kate. They want your business. So they're not going to help you learn healthy communication. They're not going to help you heal your heart. They're not going to help you let go of the past. They're not going to help you have those bold conversations about understanding that we're talking about. And so when the pandemic hit, they're like, oh, it's getting worse. There's a mental health crisis coming. There was, it was one of the best years of my business. I helped a lot of couples either consciously uncouple or stay together and actually talk about what they'd never had the courage or ability to talk about before. And the singles were like, come on, Allana, what are we going to do? And I said, you know what? I'm going to create the world's first partnering app. And we called it Heartmates.
Yeah.
And
I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, thank you. It's about having intimacy training. That's one of the components. You learn about how to become a better intimate lover. Two, we have these live conscious connection calls. And the reason I was thinking about it is what you just said about understanding. So live conscious connection calls once a week. And I give 3 questions. And the structure is you ask you're broken into pairs, and you ask a question and the person answers. And then all you say is, thank you. You don't interrupt. You don't say, oh yeah, well, when I went to Montana, or like, you don't get to say any of that. Okay. You just say, thank you. And thank you means I understand you. I heard you. And if you don't understand, you don't get to say thank you. You say, clarify that. So the whole conversation back and forth for like 30 minutes, 3 different questions. And these are deep questions. When I ask the members, what are the benefits of doing this? I really thought they were going to say deeper connection with others, more bravery to speak my truth, improve listening skills. They said all that, which is one of the results. But the other result they said is, I'm learning more about myself. And here's the thing. When you talk at somebody and they're not even listening, or they interrupt, or they're like, yeah, and then talk about themselves, communication didn't happen. Because communication is the communication coming over and the receiving of it without interruption or judgment. That rarely happens in life. And so a lot of us have so many thoughts spinning in our head for decades of not being listened to by mom and dad, by first wife, by second wife, whoever, right? We don't get heard. All those stay spinning inside of us. And we can't quiet our mind and hear our heart's wisdom or our guts. And it's all because of these thoughts. But in these conscious connection calls, which they come together every week, singles and couples, because we have Heartmates for singles and Heartmates for couples, because my business is different than a dating app. We become the one to find the one to keep the one, or thrive with the one, whatever word you want to use. And if that's for 1 year, 10 years, or the rest of your life, it's up to you. But this is our business model. So you go from Heartmates for singles into Heartmates for couples. So everybody's on these calls and they share. And what happens is they're heard. And then once that communication is heard, it dissolves into nothing. And the next truth can arise. And then it happens again. And the next truth can arise. And a truth that they've never been able to access ever inside of their being. They're like, oh my God, this is what's true for me. And they're like, oh my God, that feels so empowering. I'm like, yeah, you know who you are. Now go be it. It's amazing. And then of course, the third part of the partnering app is it's in beta until Q4 of this year, but is where the people dating also are doing the work and also meeting on the conscious connection calls. So you don't get on the dating app, where's my person? Because I'm so desperate and empty and I can't handle being alone. No, you meet people that are here to become the one, become their best selves. You meet as friends, you meet as allies, you get to know each other. You get to know the deep, truth of one another. And then the dating is just natural.
Right. Yeah. Dating apps are just like spackle for drywall. It's just a quick fix.
Spackle for I'm going to write that down. That's very good. Can I use that?
Yeah, you can use it all you want.
For drywall. Oh, that's really cute. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many wonderful people out there that are so turned off by it. They don't show up and meet their beloved. And not that I'm single, I'm totally happy. But if they're not happy and they want a relationship, then they deserve to be in an environment where it's safe, deep, conscious, where they meet people that are really willing to do the work. That's one of my 5 deal breakers I tell people when they're dating, is to have somebody that's always willing to learn and grow. Not like one and done. Oh, we're married, I'm just going to sit on the couch now. No, always grow. Go to workshops, read books, explore the world, have adventures. Go to be in coaching organizations like myself to improve your relationship.
Yeah. I don't know how you teach people how to get out of the negative outlook versus the positive outlook. And when people hear me say that, they don't really understand, well, what's a negative outlook and what's a positive outlook? Well, instead of looking at everything as a downer in the relationship, look at it as, okay, how can I help improve him? How can I help improve myself so he's happier?
Yeah, thank you. There was something you said earlier. Can I be a bit of a niggler?
Yeah, go ahead.
With all the kindness in my heart. Remember when you said you start your day not trying to hurt somebody?
Yep.
That's the negative point of view of it, as opposed to I'm going to start my day and I'm going to get up under everyone I meet, like empower people, as opposed to not hurt. That would be the negative, or to be an uplifting influence in somebody. Like that's an example.
Sure. And that was me looking at the mirror. So that was pointed at me.
Oh, not hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, well, even more important then, in terms of an intimacy expert talking to Doug, it would be like to look in the mirror and say, I'm not going to hurt you. If you were little you in the mirror going, okay, I think that would be nice if you wouldn't hurt me. That'd be nice. Yeah. As opposed to, hey, I'm going to get up under your ass today and celebrate you. Oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. Let's have a great day.
Right.
It's kind of like that.
That's my trigger not to tell a lie. Because the lies hurt me.
Oh, understood. So then I'm gonna get up under you and I'm gonna tell the truth.
Yep. So that's how I get on my ass in the mornings.
Beautiful.
So I'm not gonna hurt anybody today by telling a lie, because that's gonna hurt myself later.
Got it. Yeah. And so then I would say, I will tell the truth today so that I am kind and empowering to others. And
perfect.
Everything can be looked at from the not. I was actually just talking to one of the girls in my group. I have group coaching programs, and they coach privately with me or with my Allana Pratt method coaches. I have retreats. I have all these different ways I work with people. It was a group call, and she has done so well. She's been in Heartmates for a year, and now she's up leveled into the group coaching with me. And she was saying something like, I went on a date and I told him, I don't want to and I want something serious, and I don't want you to do whatever. I go, how'd it go? She goes, well, he was a little bit taken back. And I'm like, okay, let's shift that to what you do want, because that's more feminine and inviting.
Yeah.
As opposed to judgmental or, I go, it's good that you know what you want. That's awesome. Sure. What you don't want, but what do you want? She goes, oh, I want a long-term commitment. I'm like, well, that's different than saying I need something serious. That makes it very serious. And she's like, oh, I didn't even see that. I go, yeah. So, and what do you want? She goes, I do want to take my time getting to know somebody for a long-term relationship. I go, great. Tell him that on your next call and see, or praise him that he's interested in that, or affirm that, or whatever.
I get those questions all the time from some of the girls that I've dated. They're friends, because they know I'll wear my answers on my sleeve, and I won't hold back. So they always ask me the generalization guy questions, and I'm just like, I can't answer for every guy. This is just me.
Yes.
So this is how I see it. And they're like going, well, how come every guy doesn't see it? Well, not every guy doesn't see it. Every guy is different. Every girl is different.
Totally. Yeah.
We all have to learn to work with one another.
Yeah. And the more clear we can be with who we are, the more clear we can be in our communications, and the better matches we can find for whatever it is, whatever lifestyle, whatever relationship we desire.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is the best and greatest part about all this. So how did you you kind of went into it a little bit ago, but how did you really hone the aspect of getting into coaching in the intimacy industry?
Yeah. So I call myself like in the coaching industry, and my niche is intimacy. But when I first started, my goodness, I went to Landmark Education in Los Angeles, and I did the forum and the advanced course and the SELP. But then I got asked to coach SELP. And then I got asked to head coach SELP. And then I got asked to head coach 2 programs of SELP. And the gentleman who I love to this day, John King, said, you know, you're good at this. I want you to follow this, this train. People feel really safe around you. You have really great presence, great energy, great compassion. And so that was first. Then I went to some Peak Potential courses. I'm Canadian, and Peak Potential is a Canadian organization. And it was like Warrior and Wizard and these amazing workshops. And then T. Harv Eker, who runs it, said, we're open to coaches. So I started coaching for him. And then I rose to the top 1% of coaches. And then I think he was paying me $35 an hour. And we were at an event and I was on the dance floor with him. And I'm like, the International Coaching Federation says that the average payment for a coach is $200 an hour. Why do you pay us $35 an hour? He's like, because I find the lead and I handle the back end. And I go, well, that can't be that hard. He's like, good luck. And I was like, I took it as a whatever. So I quit and I went out on my own. Oh my God, Doug. It was like, oh, you need to learn how to be a businesswoman, a marketer, a copywriter, a website designer. Like you need to learn how to be a speaker. You need to learn how to be an accountant and a bookkeeper. You know, like there was like 10 jobs, not just a coach. And I was like, oh my God, but I'm stubborn. So I didn't give up. For a little while, I just procrastinated and I studied some more and I got some more certifications just for my confidence. But I always believe the universe tells you you're going in the right direction if you're willing to listen. And that's when I was in Lisa Gibbons. I was on her radio show once a week at that point as the sexy mom expert. And she got the call from Dancing in the Stars right during our segment break. And all the producers ran in. And they're like, you have to do it. And she's like, you could tell she was nervous. And I said, you know, maybe she doesn't have to, but she could choose to. Why? What are your concerns? She's like, I'm 50. My thighs in front of 50 million people? I don't think so. And I said, well, good point. Good point. I said, however, what if we changed your why? What if your why was, I'm here to show up and enjoy the journey of life, the adventure of living, and not worry about looking good and not worrying about winning? Wouldn't that be an inspiration to 50 million people? She's like, oh, will you be my coach? And I was like, yes, it would be my honor and privilege. And so to me, that was a big like affirmation to keep going in the direction of coaching. And so from there, more certifications. And just, I started to coach women. Then I started to coach men. I was on David D'Angelo's Double Your Dating. I got interviewed by him, Eben Pagan, but David D'Angelo. And that opened the whole door to, oh my God, we're all the same at the core. Men and women have differences for sure. And we definitely have masculine, feminine energy within ourselves and within a relationship that can wreak havoc. If you have two like a magnet, two of the same poles, you're going to create conflict. However, at the core, where I go, intimacy, we all have the same heart. We all have the same wounds. We all have the same insecurities. We all have that same fear of 3 in the morning of dying alone. And we all desire touch and connection and someone seeing us for who we really are. And so that's when I began to shift it into intimacy as my moniker, as my title. And the businesses just continued to expand, YouTube and Instagram and retreats and more clients. And now I've developed 10 Allana Pratt method processes because I just talk therapy is lovely, but it's just not enough. A vision board is helpful, but it's just not enough. Having a good cry feels great, but it's just not enough. And even some of the wonderful somatic work or tapping, etc., really helpful. But those all individually are relief. But when you cram them together in the quantum psychology that I've been trained in, and you put them into a process where image, thought, emotion, body, sensation are all integrated, you create lasting transformation. You don't create like sprinkles on top of the ice cream cone of shit, just have a better attitude, say your affirmations 10 more times, but you still go to bed terrified, right? Or you're still on a date, terrified. No, these processes integrate so that you feel the embodiment of confidence. You feel the ability to surrender, let go. You feel compassion. You know, it's not all about you anymore because you're whole and you're full. You're not perfect, but you're whole. So you can be so present to another because you don't need anyone or anything to be different to be enough. And you become this magnet to your people, your clients, your world. So that's why I've honed it into intimacy.
That's awesome. Yeah, the biggest thing that I try to teach from some of the people that I mentor is that if you went to the car lot when you were 16 and they said you're going to have this car for the rest of your life, how would you treat that
Yeah.
car? And that's how I say
Yeah.
that's how you need to treat yourself.
Yes.
You need to constantly clean it. You need to constantly keep the upkeep on it, and you need to constantly monitor it so that you know what it's doing. And that's what
Totally.
that's what mentorships are, that's what sponsorships are, and that's what coaching is, or therapy. I mean, people think therapy nowadays, it's getting the better edge nowadays, but 10 years ago, therapy was you're fucked up. But today,
Yeah, totally. Same.
it's a lot different,
It's
and
health. Yeah.
it's completely healthy. I mean, I talk to my mentor, my sponsor, and my therapist once a week, each one of them. And
Nice.
it keeps me in check, and it gives me an outlet to go further, and if I have questions about certain aspects, I can do that. If I have questions about this aspect, I can do that. And then with my therapist, everybody says a therapist never has an answer, but I just tell the therapist I always want the answer so that I can judge for myself. And I says, I will pay you in a year advance just so you give me an answer every week. And she just laughed. And she just laughs. And I go, well, it's kind of serious, but it's not. And I get it, but I just want an answer for that day.
Wow. For me, you wouldn't like working with me because I would ask you a question because the answer is inside of you. I would give you guidance. I
Correct.
would give you different scenarios. I would integrate whatever unintegrated emotional trigger was in the way of you hearing your heart's truth or your gut's instincts and intuition. But I don't want to give my clients a fish. I want to teach them to fish.
Yeah, that's the way she is. She's done the same thing. She just says,
Yeah.
you're never gonna get an answer out of me. You're gonna get a solution that you've given me. And I'm like, thanks. I didn't want to work for this. This is kind of why I paid you.
No, but that's awesome. I want my clients to be self-sufficient, sovereign beings. I don't want them being little sheep.
Yeah,
Like
I
I'm,
know.
you know?
It's she keeps telling me, she goes, do you give all your employees or all the people that work with you the answer to everything? And I says, no, like they have to find the solution so that we can make everything right. And she goes, do you want me to repeat that question? And I go, all right, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah. So what is the most important thing in a relationship defined by you?
The most important thing in a relationship, I would say, is honor and allowance of the other. That doesn't mean you have to like them. Doesn't mean you have to prefer what they're doing in that moment, but to be an allowance of another while staying connected to them. So heart is open. Oh, I don't really prefer this. Oh, I don't really care for this, but I'm not going to shut my heart, blame, or leave. I'm going to open my heart and be an allowance of it and breathe. That capacity to stay connected when you're uncomfortable, when things aren't going according to the way you want, when you might have a fundamental difference in values. But we're not going to do the I win, you lose game of third dimension. We're going to do the fifth dimension where it's a win-win situation, where we're going to stay connected, where we can be an allowance of each other, where we can compromise or sacrifice in a way that doesn't feel depleting or settling. It feels honoring, and like 1 and 1 is not 2, but 1 and 1 is infinity. Like the old relationships, my 2 marriages anyways, were, I would call them soulmate relationships. I'm half broken, you're half broken. Together we create one, but don't you dare change because you're the source of my happiness. And like it can be very uncomfortable, and you complete me, right? And it's very like chemistry and all the rest of it, but it blows up, right? Because we don't have 2 whole people to start with. But if you do the deep intimacy work that I'm about, and each person does that intimacy with self, intimacy with body, intimacy with the divine, so they can have intimacy with another, you've got 2 whole people that don't need to be right because they're already whole in themselves. They don't need to control. They don't need to win because they've already won being who they are. And so it's more about allowance, where 1 and 1 together, we can actually inspire dormant qualities within each other And because we love and allow each other and want each other's highest good, we want each other's enlightenment, we want each other's fullest self-expression. So it can be one and one is like infinity. And that's a totally different paradigm than I was raised in or I had in my first couple marriages. It's what I teach now, live now. And I think it's really what the world needs. We need people that are so whole in themselves, do the work as a lifestyle, like go to the gym as a lifestyle, do your inner work as a lifestyle, be kind as a lifestyle, okay, like a lifestyle. And then it's not facing each other who's going to win, but it's standing beside each other, looking out at the horizon together. How can we be our best selves, for each other, and for humanity?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have a question from a couple of friends. I told them that I was interviewing you today, and I
Yeah.
have some open girlfriends that are very boisterous, and they want to know, why do we struggle with our number? And their
Our
number being,
number?
yeah, their number on how many people they've slept with.
I don't understand the question.
So
Why?
they struggle with telling people how many people they've slept with. You know, I always tell them, I says, you guys are closet sluts and you don't tell everybody about who you sleep with. I mean, I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. It's an intimate conversation that we have amongst each other, that we can be honest with each other. I go, why don't you tell the people that ask the question, what difference does it make how many people we've been with?
So what's a closet slut?
It's somebody that says they've slept with one when they sleep with one a week.
Oh, got it. I didn't know. So thank you I've learned about spackle for drywall, and now I've learned about closet slut. So I'm learning a lot today. Thank you.
That's the uneducated part coming through.
Okay. Just wanting to be sure we're on the same page. So basically, if you're ashamed of your behavior, the word slut could be derogatory. But if you have no shame about your behavior, it could be something you're proud of. Like I remember people calling me crazy for my choices in motherhood. And because I had not come to terms yet with my choices in motherhood, I took it personally and I got defensive. But now that I totally own who I am as a mother, and someone says you're crazy, I said, yeah, from your point of view, I totally get that I am. Like no defensiveness, no justification. I'm free. I'm free in my own truth. And so around sexuality, if people have any hindrances to sharing what's true for them, that's shame. That is the lowest vibration on Hawkins scale of consciousness. It does not go any lower than shame. So it is, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you do not handle that shame, integrate and process and heal that shame. Because from shame is the next thing's anger. And after that comes allowance, which we talked about allowance before, where you might not love or prefer something, but it is what it is. And I'm not going to waste my energy resisting or reacting or hiding or bullshitting anymore. I'm just going to be me. And then from allowance comes choice. You can actually choose in alignment with your highest good. You can choose an allowance or you can choose in alignment with your soul's mission here on the planet. So I would say if your friends have concerns about anything, hiding it, it's because they're ashamed of it and they need to, like I said, with that little you that I sat with, in the willingness to sit with little you and go, wow, you have every right to feel ashamed. Tell me more. And have a conversation with that part of them and say, look, I'm willing to sit here with you, even if you're ashamed forever, and still love you. I'm going to sit here in the dark back corner of your heart, and I'm going to throw away the key, and I'm going to be with you. That's how much I love you. And if they can love themselves that much, and honor and listen and acknowledge themselves that much, and validate their true self-expression that much, and forgive themselves and honor themselves that much, the shame will dissolve. And they might, with Hawkins scales of consciousness, they might go through a phase of anger, pissed off at people that shame sexuality, pissed off at people that do human trafficking, pissed off at people that use women. They might go through an authentic pissed off stage. Express it, feel it. Don't project it onto others. You know, that's not what anger is for. Anger is not bad or wrong. When we project it onto others, not so nice, we're an asshole. When we suppress it inside, we get depressed because we're hurting ourselves. But anger itself is just potent energy that says, this is out of integrity. This is not aligned with my values. This must change now. It's an intensity. But if you keep your heart open with anger, it's called fierce love. And fierce love moves mountains.
Oh yeah. No, that's what I told her. I said, if you want everybody to have Facebook reality, just stay on Facebook and tell your story. I go, if you want everybody to have the real truth, just say it. It's just one of those things that we all go through. And that was, I never told, I just don't understand how to tell them. Just tell them. I go, it's not about them. This is about you. I go, if you can say the number, then you're fine. If you can't say the number, there's something else there that needs work.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say just say it. I would say do the work first. Then they're not going to attract people any longer that actually have an issue with the number, because she doesn't have an issue with the number. The only reason she's attracting people that has an issue with the number is because she has an issue with the number. The outside is always a projection of the inside every single time. Blaming others is a complete waste of time because they're just you on the outside.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's just I don't know. It's just a fascinating thing that how people perceive their own conversations and don't understand that, hey, look, I can put this out in the world, and if it doesn't come back to me in a way that I like it, well, that's on me. If it comes back in a way I like it, then that's on them, but I appreciated it for it. And that's kind of how I've learned to see everything. And whatever I put out of my mouth affects somebody that gives me back an affection that I will feel.
Thank you.
And that's once I realized that, it wasn't the cops' fault that I was out drinking. They just pulled me over.
Yeah.
So when I finally realized that it was my fault, that I lifted up the beer and I put it in my mouth, then I put the key in the ignition, then I drove home and hit somebody, that's my fault.
Yeah.
But when you do it every night for 6 or 7 years for 365 days a year, sure, you're going to get pulled over once or twice.
Yeah.
It's like betting number 7 on roulette. Eventually it's going to hit.
Yeah. I hope you didn't kill anyone.
No, I didn't. I ran into a pole for 1 DUI, and all the rest of them were luckily just got pulled over.
Good.
So,
Good.
Yeah. But my question to you is, how many people out there do you think are 100% honest in their relationships?
So I'm going to ask, why do you ask that? Because
I don't know. It's one of those questions that I have formed in my head. I like to find out from other people that do this business, what's their theory on how many people do you think are actually 100% honest in their relationships? Or is it that we all struggle with the 100% honesty?
Yeah, I think that's a better question, because it's, if nobody's perfect,
yeah,
then the question gets deleted, because
perfection doesn't exist. We all know that.
Yeah. Maybe what would it take to be honest in a way that empowers your relationship? Because there's certain things you don't want to share because they actually aren't a contribution to the relationship. You want to sit down at breakfast and honestly, you're thinking about your ex and you should have said that. And why did they say that? But would actually talking about that at the breakfast table be a contribution to your new partner? No. So are you lying that you're not sharing that with them? Basically, the whole world, Doug, is moving. The invitation is to move from the third dimension. The third dimension is right, wrong, good, bad, superior, inferior, lie, tell the truth. Fifth dimension is what works for everybody. What works for everybody? Where can it be a win-win? So instead of it being about lying or telling the truth, which sticks you in the third dimension and doesn't let you rise, just ask, well, is this going to be a contribution? And is it a contribution that I lie that I was having an affair? Why are you even having any affair? It's not about telling the truth or not about it's like, what's going on in the relationship that led to that? That's the real meat of it. That's the intimate, deep meat of it, is that we haven't learned how to communicate yet about sex. We haven't learned to feel appreciation for one another. The effect of that is the affair. But are we going to he said, she said, and do the whole third dimension? He lied and he never told me. Could we just shut up? We're not getting anywhere. It doesn't matter. What matters is that this isn't working right now, people. Why? And let's get to the root of it. is that you don't have the communication skills. You haven't learned how to have your own back. You doubt yourself. So instead of speaking up bravely or boldly, you go off and do some stupid bullshit that assuages that insecure part of you, but then makes you feel more ashamed later. And the cycle repeats. Let's go to the core issue and heal that. Then all the rest of this just dissolves. Then you can apologize for real. And it's not about lying or telling the truth or who's right or who's wrong. We're operating at a much, much higher level. So is honesty good? Sometimes. But is honesty a detriment sometimes? Yes. Is lying bad sometimes? Yes. Is lying good sometimes? Yes. Everything has a pro and a con. Everything, there is a benefit to pain and a detriment to pleasure. Too much pleasure, I don't know, you forget to pick up the kids. You forget to pay the taxes. It's just, it's not, I mean, pleasure, it has its good points, but it also has its detrimental points. And same with pain. Do I like pain? No, it's very uncomfortable. But do I grow in grit and resilience and perseverance when I go through pain? Yes. So is pain all good or bad? No, pain is, pleasure is, and they're equal. And as soon as we can start to see all of life and stop being so third dimensional, right or wrong, that's where the conflict is just instantaneous. Someone's always going to lose when you do a win-lose scenario. But if you go, what is the benefit of pain? What is the detriment of pleasure? What is the detriment of honesty? What is the benefit of lying? Like when you can really look and broaden it's like a paradigm shift. It is. It's from third dimension to fifth dimension.
Yeah.
Paradigm shift. So you don't instantly judge yourself or you don't instantly judge others. You stay curious. Curiosity keeps your heart open. Heart open creates connection and allows for communication that can create resolution and solutions pretty fucking naturally because of who you're being with yourself and with others.
Oh yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, some friends of mine that have open relationships, they didn't start the relationship as open, and they didn't tell their partner that they like to have open relationships. In other words, they like to sleep around and cheat and do whatever it is they want to do. If they just would have started in the beginning and told her up front, I think it would have worked out a little bit better. But as the relationship, I understand it. If you bring this up in the beginning, you're going to know right away whether the relationship's going to continue or not.
Totally. And this comes back to your intimate relationship with yourself. Are you brave enough? Do you have your own back? Can you keep your heart open and honor yourself and honor another and speak the truth? Or are you a coward with your heart is closed? Really. And that's our intimate relationship with ourselves. If we disassociate from ourselves, judge ourselves, separate from ourselves, and we don't have any bravery or courage, we're going to hurt people and lie. But that has nothing to do with them and everything to do with ourselves. So that's why, again, I believe in that our intimate relationship with ourselves is the core, fundamental building block of our self-realization. And when we do that well, not perfect, well, right. and we have it as a practice to do well, then everything from physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, vocational, financial, social, parental, romantic, sexual, the whole fucking spectrum effortlessly gets better because we were willing to actually do the hardest work, perhaps, but the core work, the efficient work, the effective work, which is intimacy.
Right.
With self.
And then once you have intimacy with yourself, you can protrude that onto your partner or anybody within your circle or however it goes.
Completely. Yeah.
No, it's a completely awesome matter, and that's the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Because I understand what you're saying on these videos, and I probably wouldn't have. I would have probably said, oh, she's a Reiki queen or something like that 25 years ago, and it makes absolutely no sense to me until I learned how to open my mind and understand how people think and understand how I think, and I'm able to portray that information to others. It really opened my eyes.
Beautiful. So, I'm glad.
Yeah, no. What's your theory on monogamy? Because that's another question that we have. I have a group of friends that we all sit around and throw things around and throw things out there. And, what's your theory on monogamy? What's your theory on an open relationship? And what's the hardest part to make that position work?
I think each of us in different times in our life. So it's not like one person I think is the same for their whole life.
No, this is the general question.
They can be, but not to have the conclusion that they will be. That moment to moment, we have a truth of what our heart desires. Sometimes it's a mile deep and sometimes it's a mile wide. Neither is better or worse, but they're different. And there's different pros and cons to each of them. There's different skill sets, growth opportunities, evolution to each of them, whether it's a mile deep or a mile wide, monogamous or polyamorous. And so the job is to figure out what's true for you and then have the courage to speak it to another. That's really what it comes down to. I don't think one is better than the other. What I have noticed though, and I'm on the path, so I'll see. But I have watched people like David Data. I just watched an interview with Aubrey Marcus. There seems to be like a traditional, just deer in the headlights. Well, everybody does monogamy, so I guess I got to do monogamy, and they get married and do the picket fence. They're like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, so most of us sort of are unconscious, I'll call it. Then we become conscious. And then we're like, well, fuck the tradition. I'm having everybody. And so they have like a polyamorous phase of their existence. And they learn what they learn there. What I found, and I'm not right or wrong, it's just my observation. And of course, I'm looking through my point of view. So you could look at the exact same situation and have a different point of view. But my point of view is, as they've gone through the polyamorous, what I find a lot of people is now what they desire is diving deep with one. And there's a real spirit, it's be more of a spiritual, higher evolutionary, as I explained, the whole mate 1-in-1 is infinity relationship, where they desire one. Now they might also invite others from time to time into their relationship. They might have invite one person or another couple, for example, or they might not, but they have incredible communication skills at that point. And there is a desire for depth, not a desire for breadth. That's just been an overall trend that I've noticed. And every stage in the journey is equally valid and equally beautiful. And again, back to, you must speak the truth from yourself to another so that you honor yourself and you honor another.
Yeah, no, I agree. As long as that they can understand the reserve of judgment from others, it's stupid. That's the worst part about, life and society today is that, I don't need your pity and I don't need your judgment. What I do need is your ability to see who I am.
Yeah. And that's, if we can't see who we are, how on earth are we ever going to see another? If we judge ourselves, how are we ever going to not judge another?
Exactly.
Right? Like, again, it comes back to intimacy.
Yes.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense to people until I explain it more, what I mean by this intimate relationship. But the reason you're judging others is because you haven't come into peace with every aspect of yourself. That's why. And if you have, you don't need to judge another. You can discern, you can be aware, but you don't have that judgment energy. But if you do on the outside, hell, it's definitely living inside of you.
Awesome. Man, this has been an awesome conversation today. I do really, really appreciate you. And is there any last betting words that you'd like to get out, or plug the Hearts, or plug the Intimacy Conversations podcast? Anything that you would like to say on an outro?
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. So my website is my name, allanapratt.com. There is an intimacy blind spot assessment there. If you're having challenges or repeating patterns in your intimate relationships, this is not of your cognitive 5% of your mind. It's the 95% unconscious that's running the show. Otherwise, you would have figured it out, right? So this quiz allows for those unconscious elements to be seen. So now you can actually do something about them. Awareness is wonderful, but awareness is just sprinkles on top of the ice cream cone of shit. Like, the ice cream cone is still there. You got to do the work, people. So I have various different programs, and Heartmates is one of them. Heartmates.app is where you can sign up for that and join the conscious connection calls that we talked about, start the intimacy training. And by the end of the year, there will be people to begin dating as well if you are single. It also is for couples, so you can join as couples, because we all require, support with this communication. If the communication dies, the relationship dies. So there's that. I also have an intimacy breakthrough experience with my intimacy success advisor. If you're like, I want to talk to somebody about what's going on, and it's only $97. It's my name, allanapratt.com/connect. So you can really walk away with clarity of what's going on. So help you see what that blind spot is and give you a plan and direction of what to do with the inner work. Because as the inside changes, the outside changes. And then, as you said, Doug, I have my Intimate Conversations podcast, hundreds and hundreds of episodes, and my YouTube channel, thousands and thousands of videos and 5 million views, and lots of complimentary ways to get to know me and to be in my world. And lastly, there's a newsletter when you sign up at allanapratt.com. And I only do videos there that my community sees. They're on this special Vimeo. They're not on YouTube. So I get really raw and really real. And I love to be that connected to my community.
That's awesome.
So that's my world.
And again, you know, if y'all want to go out and do this, or you want to sign up for Allana Pratt, I mean, that the Heart app, I think was really, really cool. I logged onto that. It's set up for 12 months. It's basically a map to your heart, and it
Yes.
really, really sets you aside and teaches you the right way to get where you need to go. And
Thank you. And you get the live practice every single week, showing up, because that's hard for a lot of people, showing up, but it's in a safe environment with friends. So you don't have to worry, oh my God, am I going to mess this up? Are they the one? No, you're going to practice with friends
and it's
first.
not an instant answer. People got to understand, you know, it's like making money. Money doesn't come instantly. Same thing with your heart and your strings and everything else. It doesn't come instantly. It takes time. You have to, you know, I've got 26 years of sobriety. I didn't get sober yesterday.
Yeah, thank you. It's like a fine wine. It gets better with age. It takes time.
It just takes a little bit of time to understand our human brain and understand who we are.
Yeah, but it's worth it. There's people that have been in HeartMates. I started it about 1.5 years ago, and the difference I see in them already. And they haven't even been coaching with me. They've been doing my videos and doing my guided meditations and my transformational processes and the online curriculum. But you don't even need to invest and work with me. The curriculum works. And then, oh my God, to get on these conscious connection calls from time to time, because I have a facilitator that leads them, but I show up every so often. And I just love them. They're doing so well. And some people have met just in the conscious connection calls, or some people have become more of who they are. So when they're out at the grocery store or the gym or wherever they are, they've met people, because the inside, as I always say, creates the outside. So I'm really proud of it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I have to sign up for it now, because I want to get the newsletter and the raw you.
I was in the Walmart parking lot the other day, and I had my green juice from my detox, and I was just shooting the shit. I had no makeup on. And yeah, this is I got a comment from one guy. He's like, "You're so adorable." I'm like, "Thank you." So it's a community. It's an intimate community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Allana, I so appreciate you coming on here today and entertaining myself, our viewers, and it was really, really great to actually meet you, because she is exactly who she is in the videos. And the conversations that I had prior to us going on this podcast are exactly the same. So she's as real as it gets. Please reach out to her. Please log on to her podcast. Do whatever you have to do. I think everybody in the world will benefit from Allana.
Oh, thank you, Doug, so much. I appreciate you. I wish you all the best. And until next time we get to connect, I wish everybody, this is our last thing to leave people with. Please, every morning and every night, put a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, and just check in with yourself. Hey, sweet thing, what have I not slowed down to hear you say? Begin that intimate connection with yourself. It's as simple as that. So thank you, Doug.
Awesome.